Skyrim's been out for, I think around 6 months, maybe almost a year now. It came
Almost
out
a year.
last winter. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, why Skyrim and why right now?
The right now is a really interesting question. So the reason that I chose Skyrim, and I tell everybody this because the moment you put together a piece of work as a filmmaker, people are like, "Oh, that's what that person does." Meaning, I put together a game parody, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, she's a gamer girl." It's like, well, I'm a geek, and my genre of choice is actually action comedy fantasy, more along the lines of action fantasy. Like I totally did drama, I do comedy. And so I'm not a huge gamer, but last year around like November when it came out, I wasn't working a lot at the time. Like the holidays are a very slow period in Los Angeles, especially filmmaking and television. And I was kind of bored. And so my friends were like, "You have to try this new game that just came out. It's seriously the best game on earth, called Skyrim." And so I went out and bought it, and I completely became obsessed with it. And I played it for like 100 hours, so like 80 to 100 hours. And I started like constantly talking about it, and I was like, I could be like sword fighting, and I'm like an ace at magic because that's like my thing. And around the holidays in December, it was like I just started thinking about Lydia, who's my companion, and like my boyfriend would always come in while I'm playing, and he'd laugh because I'm yelling at her and I'm swearing at her and I'm calling her names. And I was like, you know what? I kind of want to do like a parody of Lydia because she's so stupid. Like I love her, but she's so stupid. I don't know if you played the game,
I
but
did. Yeah. Aggressively. Yeah.
but as filmmakers and as storytellers, we look at everything as a story. It's like, what's the experience here? So that's how I came about to do To Lydia with Love. Is I was like, I just want to do a parody, and I did it in my living room on a green screen. I had people come help me out. I'm a costume designer, so I thought of it as a great opportunity to make my own costumes, so they're all replicas of the game. And then, I have like swords at home, and I was like, oh, this is great. This is totally up my alley. It's fantasy, it's action, it's funny. This is exactly what I want to do. So I think this will be a fun project for me. And so I launched that in about like early February, and it just blew up. So that was only one video, and everybody was watching it, everybody was talking about it. And so I thought it would be kind of fun to do another series of like, some of them have to do with Lydia, some of them have to do with just Skyrim in general. But the reason why I wanted to continue with that, I mean, that's kind of why I did Skyrim in the first place, because it was in my genre of choice. And I did think it was a really funny situation that I wanted to share with everybody. It's basically my own experience in the game. But I decided to do a series because it's like, okay, well, now that I have all these fans and I got all these subscribers and I have all these people that are watching, I'm not only targeting the people that had played the game, because they're obviously, there's gamers that get a game and they play it for a month and then they're like, I'm done with that game. But there are still to this day a lot of people that don't know what Skyrim is.
Right.
I'm kind of encouraging them to, I'm like a Bethesda salesperson, right? I'm encouraging them to play the game. And so the reason why it is almost a year is because we had our Indiegogo. I had an Indiegogo campaign in May, and then that ran for a month, and I got like $5,500 from people who are awesome to fund 6 more parodies. But because I'm still like considered like a low budget production, I do a lot of things myself. I work during the day. It's just taken a really long time to actually shoot, create all the costumes, get all the stuff together. And then the majority of the time is actually spent in post-production, because we shoot everything on green screen, and then we have to go in and kind of create the worlds after the fact. So what I did was I said, okay, the Skyrim parodies are going to launch November 11th. And I thought, well, rather than just doing it like randomly in the middle of the summer or randomly in the fall, why don't we just hold off until the 1-year anniversary of the game and sort of make it an ode to Skyrim? And so that's what we're planning on doing. And that's why it's kind of looped around to a full year of when the game came out, because it did take the time for me to actually play, then decide that I wanted to cover it, then do the Indiegogo and all that fun stuff, which, if anybody that works in filmmaking knows, it takes a while to do everything. So that's just my really long-winded gist of why Skyrim and why now.
Cool. You mentioned that you're a costume designer. And that's traditionally not a digital profession. How has YouTube and digital video helped you kind of increase your career as a costume designer?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm not a bona fide, I work for big budget films costume designer, but what it does for me, I love cosplay. I've been doing it since, I don't know when, since I was younger. I love dressing up and making costumes and all that fun stuff. And so what I think I'll say what it's helped me in a sense that I don't actually have to hire anybody else to create the vision of my piece. And because I'm really into sci-fi and fantasy, that's just such a great genre that opens itself up to really cool costumes. And so the web series world, I mean, in a sense, it's a little bit more, probably a lot more low budget than a lot of the major film studios. And so in putting my stuff online, first of all, like I said, it helps me save money because I can do that stuff myself. And I also know that it's going to be quality. And like for Skyrim, for example, I made Lydia's whole garb out of like fake armor and plastic. And I know that I can make it look as good as I want it to by doing it myself. But the web, like doing it in a series form and doing it in short videos and having so many people look at it, that enables them to see that I'm not just a filmmaker or an actress, but I do a number of different things. I have a background in design. I do a lot of graphic design and user experience and costumes, props, all of that fun stuff. And so I think it kind of just lets everybody know that I'm this multifaceted person that does a lot of fun, creative things.
Right, of course.
My name's in the credits like 800 times. It has to be.
So you had mentioned that web series are traditionally known as being low budget. Do you think it's harder for Hollywood and major studios and networks to take web series seriously because they are traditionally low budget?
When I say low budget, I don't mean low production quality by any means. I mean that we don't usually web series because web series are really great in that a creator could put their own stuff together in their own voice and they can have it directly go to web. So that's what I love about it is there's no filtering process through Hollywood where, I don't know, like for anybody that's not familiar with the process in Hollywood, it could take years to get even a script through. You're writing a script, it takes years to maybe possibly get somebody even interested in it. And then once they shoot it, a production company takes it over, they fund it, they get a director, they completely do whatever they want with it. So by the time your creation gets on screen, if it ever gets on screen, and there's very few percentage that do, it's a lot of times like it's gone through this whole process of involving a bunch of other people, and it might not be your voice in the end. So what web series does is it gives directors a chance and producers and creators and writers a chance to sort of create their own work and get it directly out to fans. And so in that sense, I think in the very beginning, like maybe a few years ago, Hollywood thought, the web, come on, it's just a bunch of people. Like they don't have a lot of money. They're just throwing their stuff out there. But I think today it's changed dramatically. I think that Hollywood is now hiring people on the web because they're still in this old school way of thinking and they're trained to only think of this huge complicated process. And then they're looking at people online going, oh my God, that guy has like a million subscribers. We could utilize him and his fans and obviously he's doing something right, we can utilize his talents for us, and we can hire him to help us sort of push our product. So nowadays, I think Hollywood is actually in turn hiring a lot of people online. One, for their fans, like let's be honest, they are all about finding ways to save time and money, and so they're going to pick people that are more established. But two, they see that these people are tech savvy and web savvy, and they have a voice, and so they're hiring them for like those specific talents. And the web allows you to get those talents seen much quicker than going through the old school way. So I don't think Hollywood is. I think Hollywood's afraid of the people in the web series world, actually. We contenders.
Do you think that maybe, because Hollywood is recruiting a lot of people from web series, it could put, the web series industry in danger of people just using it kind of as a springboard to get to Hollywood versus, actually staying in the web and, increasing that culture and that community and making it better while everyone instead goes to Hollywood?
I think in the very beginning, and I have to be honest, I thought this way myself. I thought for the longest time, because web series is so new, I wanted to work in television. I wanted to work in the series world, in episodic, and so I thought, well, TV, that's the best way that people are going to see me. Well, I actually had to educate myself on the fact that no, it's really not. In fact, today, being a younger person, people aren't, people don't have cable, they can't afford cable, or they don't even know where to find, content on, on cable or on like, some of the major networks, because it's so time consuming to sit down and research a show. And then you have to wait every week to see the show and you have, blah, 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 blah. So I think nowadays, people are actually watching more content online. Now, granted, they have a much shorter attention span, but they are watching a lot of content online. And so I think that we're evolving the web series world to be just as huge as, I'll say television. Film is still film. You're always going to go to the movies and you're going to watch film. But in terms of like, especially episodic or maybe the shorter series, short films and that sort of thing, I think, or parodies, skits, I think that online is really growing. And I think that this industry is getting so big now that they're actually more open to new technology. They're integrating social media more. They're having more fun with it. And I think it's just going to be another big application for a creator. So in my mind, there'll be film, there'll be television, and there'll be web series. And I think they're all going to be equally as big, Whether or not the Academy Awards recognizes that, I don't know. But they still don't think TV is serious sometimes, right? That's the funny thing. In Hollywood, the filmmakers were so like as an actor, if you were Angelina Jolie, it was death of your career to do anything on television for the longest time, because they were like, oh wow, that's just secondary to film. And now look at TV. All the big stars are like, HBO, yeah, I want to be on Dexter. I want to be a guest star on this show because it's just as big. So I think the web world is going to be what TV was a few years ago. And it's going to be like, you're going to start seeing Tom Cruise online all the time. That's what he's going to do. He's going to take over.
Well, cool. I guess my last question real quick, just throwing it out there, if you had to choose between to live in two different worlds, okay? Fantasy world with dragons and knights and all that stuff, and sci-fi world with aliens and robots and rocket ships. Which one are you picking?
I'm a fantasy girl. I love robots, but I grew up with movies like The Dark Crystal and Labyrinth, and I'm so about like elaborate costumes and swords. I love swords. I mean, I love a laser gun or a lightsaber any day, but I'm all about swords. So I'm a huge fantasy fan. That's my genre of choice. I'm open to doing sci-fi, but I think my love is, and I love spaceships, but I think my love is definitely the fantasy world and dragons. Come on. That's awesome.
Well, cool. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, so where can people check out your work?
Well, you can find all of my stuff on my website, KristenNedopak.com, Nedopak, or I'm on Twitter at Nedopak, Nedopak. And I have a bunch of shows out right now. So the Skyrim Parodies is SkyrimParodies.com. And then on my website, you can check out my other show called Fight Class, where we actually break down the behind-the-scenes choreography for movies. And I work with sword masters, and we relearn everything, and then we just put it on camera. So we kind of show you how it's done. So yeah, but you can usually find everything on my website.
Awesome. Well, cool. Thank you.
Thanks.